How you doing, guys? It's Kevin. I'm making a video here on the root cellar / storm cellar. Now, I'm making this video. Somebody left me a comment and said I didn't build this thing. Well, I did build this thing, and when I built this, I didn't know anything about YouTube, so I didn't make a video of it. But what I did do is I had taken some pictures. They're not every step of it, but I have some pictures of where I was building it, and they're on my phone. So I don't know how I could get those pictures unless I had done it myself or had been there. So I'm going to put some pictures of where I built this thing, what I have, and that's all I have, but it will prove to you that I did build it myself. So I had over 500,000, maybe almost 600,000 views on this root cellar, and a lot of good comments and a lot of good questions, and I tried to cover them the last time I made the video on the root cellar, but I'm going to try to cover them a little better, just so you could understand a little bit more about what it took for me to build it. Now, one of the main questions I had was flooding. I have no way of flooding here. There is absolutely no way. I have a river about, I'm going to say 500 or so feet down the hill. So I'm probably 500 foot above the nearest river. And this is actually built on a hillside. And I built it on the hillside because I didn't want to go straight into the ground. That would be more digging for me. So I figured that if I went into the hillside instead of going straight down in the ground, that it would be easier for me to dig and cover up. So that was the reason why it's back in the hill. Now, I put drains all the way around this, and I did mention that in my last video. There's a French drain that goes all the way around the outside of it, and then it comes down through the center, which there's a drain in the floor, but I don't have it open. Because I basically focused on the floor as being a whole drain, just in case I got a lot of water in there. Which, to the date, I get absolutely no water in my root cellar. I have never seen any water in there. Even if I take the pipe on the top, open it up, and put a funnel on that thing so it would gather more rainwater, I would see maybe a wet spot going down the wall, but nothing on the floor. The whole thing is a drain. There's no way you could pour water in this thing and it's going to come out the bottom. So I put the drain in there just to make sure I didn't get any water, because I don't want the water. Now, somebody told me I didn't need the air vents. They said, oh, you don't need the air vents. You do need the air vents. You need to circulate the air inside of the root cellar. If that air is not circulated, it's going to mildew, it's going to get musty. You need that air. And it's best if you can control the flow of air. And the reason why I say control the flow of air is because in the summer, I use probably a little, like maybe a little more air. I have my pipe buried under the ground deep, the air. And the reason why for that is because that air will cool off before it gets into the root cellar. Say like, let's say, I see how I do this. When it starts getting really cold, I'll cut the air down because I don't want a lot of flow of air. If I get a lot of flow of air, it may get too cold in there. And then say in the spring, I may open it up when the temperature starts going up a little bit to get a little more cool air of the morning at night in there. And that will keep it cool during the day. So I kind of adjusted a little bit with the little flapper that I got on the inside, which you've seen in the other video. Now, let's say A lot of people ask me about the concrete in the ceiling. How thick is it? I thought I mentioned all that in the other video, but it's about 6 to 7 inches thick. At least 4 inches or better is above the concrete blocks. And then when I built my frame on the inside, I dropped it down a couple inches, at least a couple inches, so we could say there's 6 inches in there. When you put the metal on the roof to hold the roof up, what you're going to do is, once your frame is all built, all your concrete blocks are laid, okay, you build just a 2x4 frame that's going to fit up in there. You're going to set that down inside there, and you're going to build it like a floor. You would any other floor. You're going to put your rafters across there. Everything's going to be the same. But what you're going to do is you're going to crib this big thing. You're going to use cribs, and you crisscross them all the way to the top to where you want the ceiling to stop. And then I cut a piece of plastic and laid it on the top of there. I cut it to fit down. Now don't forget, we're looking down inside this thing, and we're looking at a floor that's built right. It almost looks like it's another floor, but it's really the roof. And you put metal on it instead of wood. Frame it up just like you would a floor. Lay your metal. You don't have to screw your metal down. Just lay it down on there and put a piece of plastic on there. All them cribs are going to hold it up against. So the concrete. Now in this small one, I had 4 pillars in there. 4 pillars. This is only an 8x8 root cellar. 8 foot by 8 foot. I had 4 sets of cribs in there. So that's a lot of cribs in this little cellar. You could do that with concrete blocks, or you can do it with wooden cribs. I have no pictures of that, but that's how I put it in. And then I took rebar, 3/4 inch rebar, almost as big as my thumb. Every 6 inches, I put a row this way every 6 inches, then I come across and put a row this way every 6 inches. And all the ends of them are bent down into the concrete blocks. So then when I poured it, I poured the concrete down in the blocks and over the rebar. So the rebar now is up inside there. And then I wired, well, before I actually poured it, I wired the concrete wire to the rebar. So I'm trying to explain to you how I built the roof, so if you're building one, you get a little better idea. Frame it up just like you would a floor, crib it up in there, lay your metal on there, put a piece of plastic, frame it out over the walls. Make sure your concrete goes over the walls just a little bit. That's going to help secure too. Now, I think that might help you on your roof. Somebody asked me if I mixed all that concrete by myself. I didn't have a truck come in, but I also didn't mix it all by myself. I had 2 young boys. Actually, there might have been 3. My 2 sons and their friend may have helped me mix all this concrete with a concrete mixer. I had sand, gravel, and everything delivered to the house in a big pile in the driveway. I got a concrete mixer out there, and I took it by 5-gallon buckets and brung it up here, which is probably 150 feet. And poured each bucket on there. While I was bringing it up, loading it on, they were mixing more. And we continuously did that until the whole thing was poured. So yes, I did pour it all by myself, but I had help from my sons. And if you have help, that makes a big difference. Could I have done it by myself? Sure, it probably would have took me a lot longer though. Now, let's see. We got the air intake taken care of. Okay, door locks. People were asking me, why do you have a door lock on the outside? I have no door lock on the outside of this, okay? The door lock would be on the inside. Let's say there was a storm and we got inside of here. What I would do is I would lock the door from the inside. I would go in the root cellar and lock the other door from the inside. So nobody can lock me in here. Now, let's say I don't want somebody to get into the root cellar. I would open this door and put a lock on the opposite door. So you could get into this door, but you can't get into the inside door. So there's no chance of me getting locked into this thing. It just can't be done. Once you're in there, you lock it, that's fine. But there was a comment about what if a tree fell on top of it? That is a big concern. And I thought about that the whole time I built this. And I do have trees around me, and some big ones that I know I couldn't lift. I will take care of that. I'm going to be doing some upgrades to this place, and I'm going to do some upgrades to my root cellar, and I'm going to be using a lot of the ideas from you guys who have watched this. And we'll take care of that when I do the upgrades. Now, temperature differences from inside to out. There is definitely a big difference in temperature. I think it stays around 50 some degrees in there. Now in the winter months, it'll get a little bit colder, but it never goes cool enough to freeze anything. It always stays above temperature to freeze. And during the summer, it gets just a little warmer than I want. It might go up to like 52, 56. That's just a little warmer than I want, but it's still cooler than outside. So yes, there is a difference in inside and outside temperature. The cost. How much did this thing cost me to build? It cost me about $700 to build this thing. I did all the work myself. I just bought the block, the cement, the gravel, and pretty much dug it out and built it. So the cost was pretty low for me because I did all the building myself. Now, it is a lot of work. There's a lot of work to this little root cellar. When I first started building this thing, I laid the first block on the ground. That was the first block I had ever laid in my entire life. I had never laid a concrete block, never did anything with concrete blocks. This is the first blocks that I had ever laid in my life. Somebody told me I did a very good job on it. Now, I have laid brick before, but I never laid a concrete block. This thing is pretty much perfectly level. Everything is decent. I've had people look at it and say I did a good job on it. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying it is, if you're going to do it, you could do it because I did it. You could do it yourself. So around $700 is what I got into it. But buy your material, mix your concrete. You're going to have a truck come in, you're going to pay more money. You know, I didn't have the money, so I did it the best I could with what I had. Now, the depth of the root cellar. People ask me, how do I know how deep the root cellar needs to be in the ground? Well, in my area where I live, which is southwestern PA, my frost line is about 16 inches. So when I looked across the top of this thing, I wanted 24 inches. I wanted to be just below that frost line. So what you want to do is look in your area where the frost line is and try to keep it just below that frost line if you can. That's the best way to do it. Now, a lot of the stuff that we put in the root cellar can be put in a basement too, in a cool area in a basement. It doesn't have to be in a root cellar. You don't have to build one of these if you have a basement. You could use your basement as a root cellar. It might be a little different setup. You might have to block some areas off and insulate, but I do believe you can do it with no problem. The reason I built this was because I have no basement. So with no basement, it makes it kind of hard to store any type of foods. Now, let's see what else we got here. I think I may have covered most of the main comments. Another one too is people say, well, my door will never hold up to a tornado. And they're probably right, because I don't know nothing about tornadoes. In southwestern PA, just in the last few years, we started getting more warnings on tornadoes. And, you know, not saying that we have a lot of them here, but I mean, very seldom we ever see anything close to a tornado. So I kind of built this thing not knowing much about it, but I don't have a basement. And I figured if I got in here, I would be safer than in my double, I'd say. because you know it's not going to last. This has got to be stronger than a double wide. So listen, I'd rather be in here than I would be in the house. So, and I didn't build it actually to live in it. That's one of the reasons why there was no beds in it or anything like that. You know, it's not something I planned to live in. It was just a root cellar, and if we got a tornado warning and we knew something was getting close, I'd have a place to go. And most of the time when I get a tornado warning, or if there's big storms coming, we have the scanner going and we have it set on the weather channel, and it tells us exactly where pretty much everything is going on. So we pay attention to the scanner at all times. Now, upgrades. I'm going to do a few little upgrades in here, and I'll post a video on them, and I'll show you guys what I do to it. But I do want to sum the video up by telling you guys, the ones that think I didn't build this thing, I did build it, and I have no reason to lie to anybody. Why would I need to lie to you? There's no reason, and I'm not going to. If I do something wrong, I'll let you know, and I'll eat crow. It don't matter to me. So I'm going to show you a few pictures of what I have on video of when I built the root cellar, and I hope that's enough to show you guys that, you know, I built the thing. Alright, we'll leave it at that. I'd like to tell everybody thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe, leave me thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment if you like. Till next time.